Boom, let's do it. Well, guys, back we are, and I got some clothing on today that maybe you're not used to seeing on somebody with this kind of pigmentation on my face. We are dedicating today's episode to two groups of people. First off, the entire population of Hawaii. You'll see why in a moment. And also the entire population of Peru, because down in Peru, teaching some pastors, got some World Hope stuff going on. Also down in Chile and Ecuador and these places, they do the same thing. And they've got these alpaca ponchos. And I'm just like, these are the greatest thing ever. So I go down there and I'm like, I'm going to get me an alpaca poncho, right? And of course, I get the gringo price. They're like, oh yeah, it costs this much. I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying you $200 for that thing. So I hate to say it, I don't like doing this kind of thing, but I just waited till I got back and I got one for $60. But the alpaca poncho is wonderful, and my pastors down there in South America just wanted to give them a shout out. So today, if you see beads of sweat coming off of my face, it's because these things do really well at insulating the heat. And I didn't adjust the air conditioner in the studio here before we got started. So there we are. Also, though, we are going to be dedicating this to the entire population of Hawaii because my dad, the illustrious Merle Meyers, has graciously joined us to talk about some stuff and drop some wisdom bombs on us. And Dad, I don't know when it was that you started rocking the Hawaiian shirts, but for a non-Hawaiian, I've never seen him pull it off like you before.
It's probably been about 10 years. I think our first podcast was one of the first times.
Really?
Yeah, people would stay over at our house, with a lot of friends and family, and they'd leave Hawaiian shirts, and no one would claim them. So that's when I just started wearing them, like adopting them.
Free clothes?
Yeah, free clothes.
Well, I mean, like I get a lot of my clothes from, dead people, right?
Yeah.
Because somebody will pass away and the wife is like, well, who's going to wear all these clothes? And they're like, oh, the pastor that does the service, hey, you want some shirts?
Yeah, what a great way to carry on the memory of one that has passed.
We got some people here in the church that passed away, and when I wear their shirts now, like their families notice and appreciate it, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know. Somebody threw a plaid shirt at me, a lumberjack shirt, and I took it.
As long as they don't do a double take. Hey.
Right, wait a second. Grave robber? Yeah, well, okay, so I wanted to get you on here because a lot of wisdom that we come across after the phase of life where we actually kind of need it, right? And so we need that cross-generational, what do you call it? Cross-pollination, really, where it's like, okay, so I end up asking a lot of people this, what do you wish you knew at my age? And, what would you have done differently if you could rewind and be, my age right now, or have kids that are the age of my kids and that kind of thing. So I turned on the confession cam here so that you can tell me everything you did wrong in raising me, and then our audience doesn't have to do it. So
okay, this one doesn't come with a rosary, right? This confession can't. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought it up, and I'm glad you framed it in that way, like the things that we learned while we're doing it and afterwards.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, God gives kids to 18-year-olds. He can't expect this to go well all the time, right?
Right.
But we can sort of fast forward a little bit and get wisdom from the future if we talk to folks who have been there and done it, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. It was a fantastic opportunity, first of all, but we didn't have a whole lot in the way of textbooks or learning. There really wasn't any training.
Yeah.
You kind of learn as you go. No rehearsal.
You got a Dobson radio program that's helpful, but that doesn't get you through everything.
Yeah, that was good. Before Dobson, all I heard about was Dr. Spock, and he was a whack job, for a baby doctor. But we learned... He ran for president, too.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Did I miss that? What year was that?
Yeah. Well, I think it was when Nixon ran in 72 in the White House. Yeah, but his platform was also legalization of marijuana in 72.
Way ahead of his time, that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, real visionary.
He saw the future. He's ready to live long and prosper.
Yeah. So we didn't have much in the way of having a whole bunch of learning and application other than watching other people's kids. But when the rubber met the road was, when there would be miniature crises, a child would be a baby would be screaming, especially when you came along after your sister. We could talk with her, and then I'd hold you, you'd be screaming, and I'd say, oh, don't cry, you don't have to, here's why. And I'm starting over. Dang, but a lot of it were skills that we didn't have, we acquired, and we had some close friends that we learned from. and well-intentioned friends that were giving out less than the best advice,
Sure.
more secular stuff. But we just kind of learned as we went, not a whole bunch of skills,
Yeah, and there's an element of that that's important to parenting, right? It's like there has to be the discovery and the trial and error because, and I wonder if maybe the reason for that is because everybody's kid is different, so there is no cut and paste. I mean, you can get good advice from all over the place, but you can't transplant something that worked with their kid and expect it to work 100% with your kid. You're going to have to tweak.
Yeah.
Do something.
And the whys are going to be different from the parents, because you want to let a kid know why once they're old enough, but sometimes the whys are different. We just don't do it that way.
Yeah.
Or the why is because it's a biblical principle,
Yep.
or, just common sense. So you want to make sure that you understand why and you can convey the whys, as they grow older. So it's not just a do it this way or else, my goodness.
Right. Well, and the whys sometimes, like the complexity of those will grow, right? Like when you're a little kid, it's like, do this. Why? Because if you don't, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure it does because I got a paddle.
Yeah.
Right?
Can we say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hypothetical.
Hypothetical. Yeah. In theory.
Yeah. I don't have any children of my own sitting here in the studio. Shh, keep it down over there. So they can't chime in and see if that actually happens in the Meyers house. Okay. So like Proverbs 13:24, whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. So discipline and the rod go together. All right, so folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline drives it far from him. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. I love that verse. It's like, calm down. It's not that big of a deal. Spank your kid. If you strike him with the rod, you will save his soul from Sheol. So there's this idea of discipline. You got to apply it specifically because it doesn't work the same for every kid, right? Some kids, you spank them and they just look at you like,
Yeah.
what are you, gay? Like, quit bringing that weak stuff in here.
Yeah.
I think that was actually a direct quote. So not from me. Don't worry, I never said that to my father.
I heard that story as well.
Yeah. No, if I said that to him, we would not be filming this episode for a multitude of reasons.
Hope you didn't hurt your hand, old lady. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but sometimes, I mean, it was like, at least in our house, the discipline was, what made it effective was that you never knew what it was going to be. Like, mom was crazy. She would do stuff that I didn't see coming. You remember that time she cleaned out my entire room?
Your sainted mother? I have to live with her, so let's be careful here.
Right. Yeah. I'm digging myself a hole, not you.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, she cleared out my whole room. We lived in Texas. We had this long, straight street, because that's all there is in Texas, right? And so you could see the garbage truck coming from a mile away. So I get home from school, and I see the garbage truck coming down the road, and I see all these garbage bags out in the front lawn, on the curb. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess mom cleaned out the garage or something. And I go inside. I'm like, hey, mom. She's like, oh, hey, sweetie, how you doing? I'm like, oh, pretty good. I go into my room, and my room is empty. I had a bed, a desk, like one T-shirt, one set of underwear. Like, that was it. And I'm just like, wait a second. And that thing happens like when you walk up to the stall where your car was, and all you see is a pile of broken glass.
Your equilibrium is shifting.
Yes.
You're losing balance almost. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm just kind of like piecing all this together. And then I hear the garbage truck, and I look at the bags out the window, because my room was at the front of the house, right? Yeah. And so I look out the front, and I'm like, no. Extreme close-up.
Slow motion.
Yeah. So I literally, I opened the window and pushed out the screen, and I jumped out the window because it was the shortest path to all of my crap.
Again?
I think I was like 12, you know, and I just start hauling stuff and throwing it back through my window. And I think mom was just probably sitting in there sipping some tea, just like, learn your lesson.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And that too is the rod, because you read in the Talmud, you don't read about parents taking an iron rod and whooping on their kids. This is metaphoric, and it can be spanking. It can be moving their things in trash bags with the, wrapped with the man bun thing on top of the trash bag out in the front yard. That's the rod of instruction.
Yeah. Okay, so then when it comes to discipline, you guys, like what you guys did with us, I think was you guys seemed to take a certain approach that was variegated. It was like I said, we never knew what was coming, right? In hindsight, though, what is there anything you would have done differently, or if you like that approach, what did you like about it? What would you tell young parents about how you guys did that?
I think I definitely would have learned appropriate responses at the time, because sometimes I didn't know what to do, and I would get really upset, and then I would just give the look, and then you guys would just kind of scurry around because Dad gave the look.
You had a good look,
and that's not it's not the best way of parenting with the look, Sometimes it's needed.
Yeah, you got to have it in your back pocket.
It can't be a default. You can't do that.
I think the look is really good for in public. You got to have that one for when other people are around.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And then definitely explaining the why. And then, mom would be the one that could launch into the biblical principles of why, here's what's going to happen. Here's the discipline, and here's why,
Yeah, I'm going to push this forward just a little bit for you. There you go. Okay, so then there were times where, and this is one of the things with parents, where we have to sync up on our discipline philosophy or procedures or whatever, right? And there were times where I could tell that you and mom were reacting differently to something and you hadn't had time to talk about it yet. And so then like Emily and I, we feel like it's really important to always be synced up on discipline stuff. But then I think back and I'm like, maybe not, because then like what's mom going to do? Well, what's dad going to do? On one hand, that provides the kid an opportunity to play one against the other. On the other hand, it also adds to that unpredictability of like, man, I'm going to get it and I don't know where it's coming from, which I also think is healthy. So how much work did you guys do in syncing up on discipline?
We did the syncing up on discipline when I would come home from business trips, 2 or 3 weeks, and then mom would establish ground rules that you guys worked with. Really, everyone agreed on them. Okay, here's the rules. That's fine. And I would come in and you remember the Apollo 13 movie?
Yeah.
Tom Hanks is just back from training and his daughter holds up the skimpy dress. Dad, can I wear this? Sure. Jim. No, absolutely not. Absolutely. So it's one of those, I stayed out of her way because I would disrupt and overturn things instantly.
Well, and then you would kind of wind up being the enforcer in some ways. Like, and I get this. Like when I get back from a mission trip now, Emily has her system going, and I haven't been there for the last couple of weeks, and so I could screw it all up, right? But once I find out what she wants, I can go in there and drop a hammer anytime.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
So it's having each other's back like that. Now there were times where you confused me because you didn't discipline me for something, right? And then I was kind of always like waiting for the shoe to drop, and a couple of times it just never did. So for example, in high school, you knew a couple of times that Kyle was driving me around before his 6-month probationary period was up on his license. And I know because I got home one time. This is like burned into my memory. I get home and you were like, "Where were you?" And I was like, "Oh, we went down here." And you were like, "How'd you get there?" And I'm like, "Oh, I walked down to Shane's house and Shane drove." Really, Kyle was waiting around the corner, right? And I hopped in Kyle's car and we went. And you were like, "All right, Kyle didn't drive you?" "No, sir." "Okay." And you went back to reading.
Seemed like hours, didn't it?
Oh man, yeah. And I just I still to this day, I still don't know why you didn't just like beat the ever living crap out of me metaphorically, right?
With a rod, right? Yeah,
yeah. So like, was that? I mean, situations like that, did you just kind of like get busy and drift off? Because that happens to me all the time where it's like there's so many situations running around. Sometimes I don't keep up with them. Or was there an intentional decision where it's like, he knows he's wrong, I'm going to let his conscience eat him alive on this one, or what?
Yeah, that wasn't a routine for you. And it's one of those deals where your mom and I we'd pick our battles. You could be by the book, and this could be the drill instructor at boot camp. It kind of blows up in your face after 18 years. We just picked our battles. We knew that, you would be processing, oh boy, what happened here? And it would be a self-correcting thing. You'd use a biblical process of either 1 John 1:9 or just say, dang, that was dumb. But you would be holding yourself accountable for it. So, and you don't have to be in control. They don't have to pay the price at your hand every time. Sometimes they can learn to use their own hand to realign their direction.
That's really well put. Now, how does that change as the kids get older in your view? Because I know when I guess it was when I got my license or right around that time, you guys really let the rope out. I mean, you pretty much let me do kind of whatever I want within reasonable boundaries. But it was like I was in bands and I'm out gigging and getting home late, and you guys were like, okay, as long as grades stay high. Which I found out was a comparative term.
Yeah. C is good,
right?
In my book.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys, when I was a kid, I seem to remember that the controls were on pretty tight. Like we had a pretty strict house, all things considered, I think. But then as I got older, so what was your guys' way of thinking through? Okay, we're gonna let out the rope here and there. We'll pull it back here. How'd you reason through that?
Our test case was The Simpsons.
Really?
The cartoon. Yeah,
You,
because
you got parenting advice from Homer?
no, we used The Simpsons as a bellwether. So it was a funny show. First year it came out, first couple years, America didn't realize, well, this is a show that just turns fatherhood, makes fathers look like morons.
Right. We didn't know that yet.
We didn't know that.
We
yet.
hadn't
I
tracked
did.
the trend.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It was just funny.
Oh, yeah.
But
And listen, I'm the pastor of a lot of people listening to this show, and
Yeah.
look at me in this camera right here. It's funny, all right? Like, I'm sorry. What do you want me to do?
yeah.
All right, sorry, back to it.
And I asked a friend, the season 2 started. Yeah, did you see The Simpsons? No. Is it as good as last year? He goes, better. And that's kind of how that went.
It's everybody's guilty pleasure.
But you had Bart mouthing off to adults and everything. You wanted to watch The Simpsons, and we thought, yeah, we told you guys, just don't mouth off to your big people, and you didn't,
Okay.
And then Simpsons kind of went away. And then King of the Hill started, and that was a good
While we were living in Texas.
Dang it, Bobby!
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. But we started, letting the line out then, and when you guys reached 16, Mom and I, mostly Mom, because she could articulate it better, because she's Mom, and she said, we're going to start letting you make adult decisions for yourselves. If you get out of scope, we're going to rein you in a little. You can stay up later. Just be responsible, and you guys did fine. You really did. So that started when you were 16, letting out the line, because you had earned it. You guys had earned it.
Now, it seemed like you guys had a threshold of what was like really problematic behavior, and then other stuff underneath that, it was kind of talk it over with. So like if I mouthed off to Mom, like I moved out when I was 18, right? To the day that I moved out, if I ever mouthed off to Mom, it would be a huge deal. Like that was a zero tolerance thing.
It would be a tongue lashing, that kind of thing from me, and then.
But it's not going to go unaddressed.
Right.
But then, you find out I'm engaged in petty vandalism, TPing somebody's house. It's kind of like, I mean,
yeah. And with your sister, I kind of went along on one of those that evening.
Need a getaway driver? I mean,
because he deserved it.
That kid was a problem.
Yeah. And leaving the Ultra Slim Fast at his door after we TP'd, and then the knock and run.
Low blow,
that was
but,
earned. That was earned.
Yeah.
I think it humbled him too, from the intel I got from the kids.
Yeah. A little social pressure. They're like we were saying before we hit record, society needs to reclaim the ought, not just like,
exactly.
That kid was doing things he ought not to have done, and so there was social consequences for it.
And isn't that interesting? You talked about that with Andrew Klavan, one of our heroes.
Yeah. Not theologically, but
not theologically, yeah. But he's having to explain that to adults.
Right.
And that's where we're at today. The adults have not got the kids' lessons growing up.
Well, things do tend to revert to a baseline legalism. Like, you're good, you're great, you're righteous because you're not Hitler. And then as soon as you do something bad, it's the worst thing in the world and the consequences are huge. Like, we seem to it's an honor shame paradigm is what it is, right? It's like if you bring honor, or if you just don't bring shame, then everything is good. But if you do something shameful, then the consequences are instant, and you've got cancel culture. And then, but yeah, you guys seem to have some kind of gradation of like, this is not a big deal, this is a big deal. And that seemed pretty consistent. Like, even though it was surprising to me at the time, some of the stuff I didn't get disciplined for, I can definitely track the consistent boundaries. Like, if I crossed X, Y, and Z boundary, it was going to be a problem. I don't think I ever got my car keys taken away.
You got your car keyed, but
yeah,
I was mad.
I caught you doing that.
Yeah.
But I knew what would have gotten my car keys taken away.
Yeah.
Right. You remember that one time? I don't know if you remember this. I got my license, and I hadn't had it for 6 months yet. And I was driving to school, and there was a kid, one of my buddies, Jeff, and he was walking in the rain because it was Seattle. I go to school every day in the rain, right? So I'm driving. He's walking over there, and he's going to be late because he's walking on Highway 9 along a dangerous road, and he's getting rained on, just hating life. And so I pulled over and I picked him up. And so I got home and I told you, I was like, "Hey, Dad, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I gave Jeff a ride today." And your answer, like, because I broke a law, right? Like that's
well, it was an insurance thing.
Yeah, and so you said, "Okay, thanks for telling me. And by the way, if something had gone wrong, I could get sued for gross negligence on that. So how about you don't do that anymore?" And I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
So there weren't consequences for breaking a law because you discerned the heart behind it. I was trying to do a good thing, and you factored that in.
Yeah, and then also, it was if I remember the story, I remember this. His parents unloaded on, you should have been ready to go, and rightly so.
Fair enough.
You can walk, and it was rainy. You pulled over. You gave him a lift. So I think you were being a good believer, and giving him a lift. And what did he do for you the rest of the day when he saw you in between classes?
I don't know.
He'd run in front of you, hold the door open.
Did he
that
really?
Was gratitude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
all day. He said. You said
cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a good thing that you did, and I would encourage that. But you had thought behind it.
Right. Yeah. What's the intention? Right. Train the heart, not just the actions. And I don't know. Like I was reading 1 John to the kids yesterday, the day before, and I'm looking at this, and it's just such solid gospel relationship with God stuff. But it's peppered in with all this ethical training as well. And I'm like, man, I really hope that in our evangelical circles where we're so focused on grace rather than works and faith rather than works and salvation and all of this stuff and no legalism, I really hope we don't lose the ethical training portion of the Bible, because this is where we go to say, you must do this, you must not do that. You ought to do this, you ought not to do that. And, I think we're kind of in danger because of an overreaction against legalism, right? I think we're kind of in danger of just saying, just train the heart, don't train the actions. But the two really do go together. When you train the actions, that's teaching the heart what is good, right? It's like the law is a tutor to lead us to Christ,
Yeah, and I think the training also is training on the non-negotiables. So don't spring that on somebody by over punishment. Just here are the non-negotiables, things we don't discuss. Here's why, or things we don't do, and here's why. And just so kids understand the boundaries, and the parents know that the kids know the boundaries, and they can talk about it. There's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, might be a little harsh in this respect. What do you say we do that?" Yeah, we can do that. We can be flexible. Or no, we're going to keep it the way it is because. And as long as they're kind of stakeholders in this whole process, not just waiting to get pounced on. And when you get mad, your kid can get pounced on. I've been guilty of pouncing like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to drill into that because I can remember when you guys would do this with us, and I like that terminology, make them stakeholders in the whole process. But it was never a negotiation either, right? So how do you navigate that? How do you welcome them in, let them be part of this? We're going to establish some norms, and you have a voice in this, even though you don't have the final say, versus letting them just weasel in and be like, well, I think what would be fair is if I got more freedom, right?
Yeah.
So, like, how do you invite them in without losing the parent-child authority structure?
Well, it was like when we moved to Texas for Boeing. We weren't even done building our new house.
Right.
We're moving to Texas. We sat around the table.
It worked out fine, by the way. Everything went swimmingly.
Yeah. Did you ever get your clothes back from my garbage truck? Yeah.
I think after hearing this, Mom's going to put them out again.
Yeah. What was the question? I'm very old.
I don't know, actually. I've passed 35, so my brain is mush. I was just, how do you invite kids in to be to be stakeholders in the process without sacrificing the authority structure that's in there?
Yeah, so it was like moving to Texas. We all sat around the dinner table and we pretended you had a vote. We pretended.
That whole thing was fake.
We're going to move to Texas. How many vote on that? And you two, like that, and we did. And I kind of like, here's why and whatnot. But you just have them, present as whenever possible. When it gets into real adult or big people stuff, they can't be there if they're not ready for it. Yeah. And then, also, you have the non-negotiables, but you don't want to use non-negotiables to break their spirit. And you can do that in any kind of long-term relationship, being in a marriage with a spouse or raising kids. You can break their spirit, just, no, we're not going to do no.
No reason, no
the
why.
Power of no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had an employee that would do Dr. Evil real good. How about no, but yeah, that.
Zip it. No, look at me. I'm Zippy Longstockings.
Don't do the rest of that.
No, that's true. Yeah, I'm a pastor,
Dad. This is a family. Yeah.
Jeez.
But it was funny.
Unbelievable the influence you are on me. It's
yeah.
horrible.
So don't let them know where they stand and don't break their spirit. And when they do something wrong, don't keep them stuck in history.
Emily's really
assigning
big on
shame, keeping them stuck there.
Right. Emily is really big on, and she taught me this about knowing or communicating to the kid when the discipline is over. Right. You're no longer in trouble. That. Yeah, and because in our family, the culture was kind of, I don't think it was bad or unhealthy. It was just like something would blow up and everybody would kind of get it. Like, okay, and then we just sort of move on and go about our business. And the upside of that is forgiveness came quickly. We didn't hold things against each other or whatever. But I can see how where Emily can even add to that, where it's like, okay, all of that's great. Quick forgiveness, we move on quickly and that's fine. But to even then give some clarity to say, all right, now it's over. So for example, after some metaphorical rod use, then she'll ask the kid, she taught me to ask the kids, do you want a hug? And then most of the time they'll say yeah, or they'll say no thanks or whatever. But then it's like you give them a hug, boom, it's over. And they're off giggling and playing 5 minutes later, Yeah. So yeah, there's the hard shutdown then. You're saying that's what, invalidating, or somehow that breaks their spirit.
Yeah, especially if it's repetitive.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, because sometimes you just have to, right?
Yeah.
It's like hard no, we're moving on.
That's the dynamic.
Yeah. All right. So then is there anything that you, looking back, you hope that we do better in our generation than you guys did in yours, as far as, and I'm specifically talking about discipline. We'll get into some other areas here, but are there any things where you look back and it's like, yeah, we probably should have tightened up some screws on that. I hope my kids do that better.
Well, I see no favoritism. Being parents, you get tired. I really can't point anything out. I mean, you're normal human beings, you're parents, and there are no favorites. There is no shutting people down and extended punishment or assigning shame. No eye rolls. Every time you look at the kid who's offended, and no silent treatment. So,
yeah, that was one thing. The silent treatment was never a thing for us. That's good, because that's devastating for kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have access to mom and dad's heart right now. Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, then because I mean, there's always situations we would go back and handle differently on one-off deals, right? But as far as the approach goes, then when we talk about communicating values across, so I'm kind of shifting out of discipline here. The job of parents basically is to replicate yourself, right? So you're trying to transfer your worldview, your values across generations. And
who are we trying to replicate?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a disciple of Jesus. So like Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ, right? We're trying to follow him, and I'm trying to teach my kids how to do the same. So I'm passing that value structure. But I would even say, and I don't say this with any great joy, but for a Muslim family, for example, the parent's job is to train the kids in their worldview and to pass it down. Mm-hmm. Now, I hope Jesus gets in the way and intervenes and they all end up being Christians. But the way that the structure goes is that the parents are supposed to shape the values of the kids, and you're supposed to replicate yourself and give them a chance for improvement, right?
And that is very successful. Give it to our Muslim brothers and sisters. They are very successful with that. Mm-hmm. You look at inner city Muslims, especially the black Muslims, inner city. For the most part, they're not out in gangs. They're respectful towards adults because fathers are instilling those values.
Yeah, they're on top of it.
Yeah. Now, the values are different from Christian values in some respects. Mm-hmm. Both come from, Judeo background.
Yeah, they're Abrahamic values in general, but there are some areas that clash for sure. But I mean, Mom always said it when I was growing up, right? The family that prays together stays together. And in terms of cohesiveness, it almost doesn't even matter what the religion is. If you pray together, you stay together.
But we've taken God out of that. Now the mantra is, if it wires together, it fires together. It's secular. So
what does that mean?
I don't know.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah. Sounds great, though.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it sort of kind of rhymes.
Yep. Yeah. But praying together, staying together, that's a spiritual value.
Lefties are so uncreative.
It's true.
Which makes sense. God is a creative God. So you kick God out, you lose that part of his image.
Well, their memes are terrible.
The left can't meme.
No,
what's with that?
I don't know.
Yeah, even if I disagreed, even if I was not a conservative-leaning person, I'd still go get the conservative memes because they're funny.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. All right. So then in terms of transferring worldview, you guys had a particular disadvantage because you and Mom both had different worldviews than you were raised with, right?
Well, both unbelievers, and both parents in the families, and her parents were very very traditional, very patriotic, and first mayor of Briar at 32. Her dad,
he was 32.
Yeah,
Grandpa's a stud.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And that was just his part-time job. He was an engineer for Boeing at that time also. But great values, great community values, and on my side of the family, it was different, unbelief. So yeah, we both had different unbelieving values that we were raised with.
Yeah, well, and I don't know how many times I've told that story about, you didn't really have any male role models, right? Or
good ones. Yeah. A lot of them, but not
of
good.
Them, right? Yeah. When Skip was the high water mark, that's an issue.
That was our secret too. You can't tell anyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll keep it between us.
Yeah.
But this is pastoral confidentiality, what you guys are seeing right here.
Raise your right hand. We're pastors.
Right. Right. But with that though, I've passed that along to so many people, especially like at the Pregnancy Network, when you get these young 15-year-old gangbangers whose girlfriend is in there getting an ultrasound and they don't know what to do and they're scared and their culture's telling them one thing, but they really kind of want to do this other thing. And what do you do? And then here comes, nerdy cornbread white guy with khakis and my shirt tucked in because that's the dress code. And I sit down and I'm like, let's talk. And they're like, what do you know about me? And I get to say this and I say, look, I don't know what it's like to be you, but I know what it can be like for your son. All right. Because I'm living that. So you don't have to just rinse and repeat what you were handed. You can make decisions. Mm-hmm. And my dad is proof of that, right? And so you took that somehow without a bunch of male role models, good ones, and it's like a negative image. Like you just kind of flipped it around, and whatever they were doing, you just kind of did something different or something. I don't know, but you had to start over as far as giving us a cohesive system of values and transferring that to the next generation. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, weird question, but how'd you do that?
It was really Bible teaching right before I started dating your mom. There was this guy. He had like a flat top haircut. He was a pastor. I don't know how he was a degreed engineer, and then he went to seminary. And he was just a brainiac. But flat top haircut. He looked like a Barry Goldwater supporter. And he was one of the guys that came out of Dallas Theological Seminary back like in the early 60s when the degree really meant something.
When they were reclaiming the gospel from liberalism.
Yeah. On a test, it'd be a Greek test, and the question would be in Hebrew, and he'd have to answer it in Latin. He was one of those guys. Wore a suit and a tie to school every day at a seminary. But his teaching was, it was rough and tumble, and it was really good. It was really helpful. And that was really the only teaching. There was another great pastor teacher around, but we chose Ron Breckel, and that really helped us. And then marrying your mom, of course, really helped because she absolutely was devoted to learning this and applying it. There's times, Sunday morning I'd be in a bad mood or whatever. I'm not going to church. She'd get you guys all ready to go, and by the time watching you guys all preparing to go to church, I'd be ready to go. It worked.
Dang it. Okay, I'll lead.
Yeah.
Right, I get
Sometimes she had to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's really what helped, is those two things, the teaching, the application, the failing, and, getting up and doing it again, and marrying your mom. Yeah,
I get to be a spoiled brat in my generation because I get to look back at that whole doctrinal movement and what Ron Breckel was doing and coming out of Dallas. Those guys, it was a small movement, but they knew what they were doing, right? And I get to look back at that now and say, well, that led to this problem, and now as a pastor, I need to do this differently than those guys did. And those are all fine things to evaluate. But in the end, what you had order in the middle of chaos. And these guys knew how to take a Bible and say, now here's how you live life and here's what you believe, right? And I mean, these days, again, 2 generations later now, I can quibble with some of the stuff, but man, they set legacies and generations in order. And they did it just using a Bible and nothing else.
Yeah, and you can quibble with some of the application.
Sure.
Because everyone's application, some of it's non-biblical. It's just not called out, so you want to change the brakes on your car, turn to Leviticus. It's not there.
Yeah.
And same with some of the applications. But now his son, who is another brainiac, all the kids are brainiacs.
Yeah, shout out to Paul Breckel.
yeah. Who's got COVID.
Right.
Whoop, that was HIPAA.
You just broke HIPAA laws.
I did.
And ADA laws.
But I'm not a care provider, so I'm good.
Yeah. Hey, technicalities. Yeah. Way to go.
Got him.
Yeah. So Breckel Jr. comes along.
Yeah, and it's the same teaching with going through the understanding the Hebrew, understanding the Greek, and he's huge on application, and he's there. I won't say a softening, but he's more like mom. His mom.
Well, yeah, he knocked some of the rough edges off of the hardcore participants of that doctrinal movement, which is good. That needed to happen, right? Yeah, because there were some things where anytime you've got a movement that's a corrective measure to something else, you're going to wind up majoring on some minors, and it's just sort of the nature of the beast, right? Because anytime you get resistance, you're going to dig in your heels. And so now in my generation, I'm looking back and I'm like, why were they fighting so much about the term scar tissue of the soul? Who gives a crap? You know?
Yeah.
But to them, it was a huge deal because that's where they were getting attacked. So they fortified their defenses. So then, I think Paul comes along in one generation later and is like, all right, I mean, we can take or leave the terminology, but here's the biblical truth, right?
Yeah. And then he's separated the primary doctrines from all the secondary ones.
Yeah.
They're all important, but the primary is the major.
So then what do you think that, like, so my kids, your grandkids, what do you think their generation is going to need to correct from things as they are now, right? Because, I mean, my generation, we're bringing up kids, we're kind of in the middle of it. And so maybe it's not enough data to know what the problems are yet. Sometimes you can only see, like we said at the beginning, in hindsight. But we can kind of track some stuff. Like there's a return to stay-at-home moms. That's a wonderful thing. There's a return to homeschooling. Love it. We need to do everything we can to fuel that. There's an overexposure to technology and outsourcing parenting. That's a big problem, right? So you can kind of start to see some of it. But what concerns do you have that you think your grandkids need to start thinking about straightening out? Sprung that one on you.
Yeah, you did. And I really believe that the grandkids are either going to take the lessons or not, because some kids that went to that church we did in the 80s, their kids are not churchgoers. Many are, but some just said, eh.
Yeah.
And so, we can do as much as we can for our part, but it's going to be that person. Are they going to answer that calling to pick up their cross and represent Jesus Christ? Follow me. And a lot are going to say no. There's no guarantee. And we've seen this, kids from parents that we knew that were much better parents than us, much more experienced. A couple of their kids just say,
Yeah.
And for now, no.
People make decisions, right?
Yeah. Right now, I'm hearing about one generation. I don't want them to get a big head, but this generation is responsible for most of the Bible purchases in America. Pornography is way down with that generation, and a lot of good things are happening.
Which generation's that? Mine or my kids?
Gen Z is what I'm hearing.
Really?
Yeah. And they're a lot of responsible for the rallies, return to Christ, wholesale.
Porn consumption is down among Gen Z.
Yeah.
I wonder what would lead to that.
So there's just quite a few believers in that. I think a lot of them, it's just a calling. It's just, you could be raised by unbelieving parents and all of a sudden, you choose to follow Christ.
Yeah.
Not because you're any better than anyone else, but that just happens.
It is interesting, as the mainline denominations kind of empty out, at the same time, there's sort of a revival might be too strong of a word, but there's definitely some kind of awakening, but the Christians just aren't going to, Grandma's Methodist Church. They're somewhere else.
Or the prosperity preacher on TV, whose population is going down.
Thank
Mormon
God for that.
Butts in seats in Mormon churches going down.
The other thing that might be contributing to that lower porn consumption is the science is getting so much more clear. So you've got these unbelievers now that are coming around to Christian conclusions. You got the Jordan Petersons of the world who, despite whatever label he wants to throw on himself, he's not a Christian by biblical standards, right? He's, I hope he gets there, but at the moment he would not be a biblical, he would not fit the biblical definition of Christian. But he's saying all the same stuff Christians have been saying for 2,000 years. You got the Andrew Hubermans of the world who are like, listen, porn is killing your brain. Like, if you really want to destroy your brain, go do some heroin because it'll be better for you than the porn addiction that you're getting wrapped up in.
Take a heroin addict, put him in an MRI, brain scan him, and a porn addict. They're going to be the same.
Yep. After, in extreme use cases, these two, they end in the same place, right? Yeah. And so I heard Huberman say something interesting once where he was on a podcast. I think it might have been Chris Williamson or something. A couple of unbelievers, smart guys, got all the data in the world at their fingertips, and they're just talking this out, right? And so Huberman was saying that when like the chemicals that get released in sexual union are bonding chemicals, right? They're designed to bond you to another person. Okay, so then the question came back to him, well, what happens with porn then? Because there's no other person to bond to. And Huberman comes back, he says, that's the really interesting thing. We don't know. There's like a bottomless spiral, and where it's looking for something, and we don't know yet what this chemical bonds to, but we know that it bonds to something because that's the nature of the chemical. And so it's like, what are you, like, what effect is that even having on you? And he says, I don't know, but we know it's not good.
Yeah, and that's part of attachment. You know,
Yeah.
you can go to the John Bowlby, brilliant, the attachment theory, and then Mary Ainsworth, who was working with him, really took it to the next level after Bowlby passed away. But we have to attach to something, and God made us relational. Even our DNA has to attach to something. Our brain chemistry has to attach to something. So that's kind of I think that's a invisible fingerprint of God.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a way.
We are communal.
Yeah, and Jordan Peterson, unbelievers are seeing the obvious because they've gone through the secularized universities and they just said, no, this is not right. And it changes every 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
It's crazier.
I'm so glad the new atheism is dead. It just hung itself.
Oh, it did. It did. Yeah, it was a spectacle. We would laugh listening to those guys. But Jordan Peterson, he's a recovering Canadian. We love him.
Yeah.
And we're not giving him back. Douglas Murray, the same thing, unbeliever, an Englishman. He's American now.
Yeah.
He's us.
Right.
And Rosie O'Donnell, you can have her. Madonna, keep her.
Yeah. Boy.
Lovely parting gift. Take Rosie.
You know, I think it was you that said to me, the world has gotten so crazy that these days, if you put a picture of Madonna next to a picture of Rosie O'Donnell, actually Rosie is looking a little bit more feminine.
That was Roseanne Barr.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
No, Rosie, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you'd have told somebody in 1986, Roseanne Barr is going to be smoking hot, and Madonna, not so much.
Yeah, as long as she doesn't
go,
talk, I can't handle this. Yeah. I heard her on some interview. Emily and I, we were on our trip. We were on our vacation a couple of weeks ago, and so we're listening to some podcast. She's like, "Oh, next we got Roseanne Barr." And so, like, all right, whatever. And she comes on. She's like, "Hi, Benny." And I'm just like, "Kill it! Give me the kill button."
Yeah.
Take the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, where were we going with that? Okay, so then if people are waking up and seeing the obvious, then that we've been seeing all along. And when I say we, I mean, biblical Christians, not you and me personally, but like, biblical Christians. So why isn't that ending in a bigger revival then? I mean, among our kids, right? I would submit to you, it's because, let me get your thoughts on this. It's because one thing that we need to recover in my generation and the kids' generation is in-home discipleship, right? Now, I don't know how in the world you guys would have done that. My take on it is you guys are both first-generation Christians, looking at a Bible saying, oh, okay, cool, let's do that, right? But a lot of this stuff, it was your first time seeing it, Now, we've been handed something, and so we have to systematically reproduce that in our home.
Well, and the key is putting things in context. Beat your child with a rod. Oh, sign me up. I can do that. Yeah. So it's putting things in context because the Bible has to be understood and applied in context.
Context.
All right, next time I play that, it's going to be louder. Your headphones aren't on, but I have a context drop where it just says context. So I just played that
cool.
for you. Yeah. So one more time, people.
Context.
There we go. Yeah. So it's. Can you imagine some first generation Christian picking up Genesis 17 and being like, "Hey boys, there's this thing about circumcision. Think I've let you down?"
If your eye offends you, check it out. Yeah.
Your new name is Timothy. Come on, man. How's your Hebrew?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, context and application. Because if you get the context wrong, the application is not going to work out well at all.
Right.
And that'll kind of guide you also.
That's Job's friends, right?
Yep.
They had a lot of truth, but that's not the way the truth was meant to be used.
Exactly.
They used the right truth in the wrong at the wrong time.
Yep.
So when kids violate their own conscience, this is a conundrum for me because my oldest two are in high school now, but they're homeschooled, so they're a little more insulated. But if they were in public school at this point, there'd be a lot of promiscuity getting introduced in their social circles. There'd be a lot of experimentation with drugs and alcohol and things like that, right? And So even though we've been able to kind of keep that out of our home for now, they got jobs now, right? So they're starting to interact with some of this stuff. And at some point, they're going to violate their own conscience. They're going to feel terrible. Now, on one hand, I want to maintain biblical standards and absolutes. On the other hand, I want us to be a safe place for them to come and talk about these things so that they don't have to take it to the world, right? I want all of these problems coming home in a certain sense. So how do you maintain trust? Because like I don't even know if there's an answer to this question, but like I've never been shy about calling you up and telling you that I screwed up. I'm like, oh man, I really screwed the pooch on this one, Dad. You know, whether it was even recently, like after high school in a professional setting, oh, I made my boss mad. You know, I never thought like you were gonna backhand me, right? So how do you maintain trust to the point where kids can bring their failures to you, and but without being some limp-wristed like, you know, well, I just approve of you no matter what, you know, and that whole thing. You get what I'm getting at as far as that balance?
Yeah, it's the how you respond. Yeah, I like what you did here and here. This could use some. There's opportunity for improvement by doing this. You know, all in all, C+ or D+, whatever. Yeah, but yeah, just not everything is 100% bad. There's some goods even in bad situations. So yeah, kind of give the big picture.
Yeah, I remember when I was a early teenager, I might have been 13 or something, and I asked you, you know, and my sister, she turned out great, right? She's wonderful. But I mean, when you're that age, you don't know how you're going to turn out. And so I remember asking you at one point, like, hey, what if Morgan like got pregnant or something, and she would have been 15 at the time, right? And I asked you, what would you do? And you said, bring her home, you know, like decorate her room, get a crib in there, basically. And that answer surprised me, not because I expected something different out of you, but just because in the Christian community that we were in, there were real social consequences for that kind of stuff. And you were basically like, you know, the way I took that was, yeah, but that's not coming from Dad, right? You got a problem? Okay, we'll shoulder your burden with you, you know? So yeah, there was a kind of trustworthiness that the home had, where like things can get messy here and it's not going to be a deal breaker.
Yeah, and especially of the subject of having babies out of wedlock. I know you believe the same, but every baby is a gift, and circumstances be damned. Just, you know, God creates life regardless of the circumstance. And so that baby's there for a reason, and it could have been through inappropriate relationship or not. I remember joking, I think both with Morgan and Emily, I'm going to have a baby, and then I'd say, now you're going to have to marry that man, you know, and giggle. But, you know, these are circumstances that are very hard, and we need to be there to support and even really encourage.
What would you have done with the dad, do you think?
With the dad?
Yeah.
If he'd have been around?
Yeah.
I probably would have listened, because I like father-son day basketball games and stuff. I'd be invited by friends' dads to do that. You know, I thought that was great. It would have been nice. I would have exchanged some tough opportunities for other tough opportunities, like having to listen or put up with somebody that was, you know, flawed. So yeah.
All right. So one of the questions that came in regarding this issue is, how do you prepare your child for courtship? Now, let me just spike the ball and take the win here. We're talking about courtship rather than like dating at age 15 or something. I think that's a win. Like I'm really glad to see the culture shifting back this direction, at least in our you know, little bubble of Christianity here. Because you know, I don't know if you agree with what I'm about to say or not. Feel free to disagree with me and correct me. I think dating sucks. I think it's a terrible idea, and I think it's just constant and guaranteed heartbreak, except in that one instance where you end up marrying the person. And I think you can get that benefit without all the experimentation along the way a majority of the time. So not every relationship is going to work out, but I think you can eliminate a lot of guaranteed failures if we change the way that we approach dating. I think a lot of times when we say dating, we're talking about spending time with somebody in a romantic setting that you're romantically interested in, with no commitment, no real plan or guarantees going forward, or even commitments to try something going forward. I'm like, I don't see how this ends well, right? So I'm very anti-dating in that sense. But if by dating we really mean what this guy's talking about with courtship, I'm all for that. Like, if you think you got a future with somebody, spend some time around them, right? So how do you prepare a kid for that? How do you shape their values in such a way that they can do that in a healthy way rather than just exposing themselves to pain and moral failure and things like that?
Yeah, starting out with dating, you're going to go through a lot more people, members of the opposite sex. You'll be getting acquainted with them, spending time with them with a lot more than courting. And each of those people are going to have different worldviews, different cultural values that you'll have to kind of adjust to and negotiate each time. And a lot of times they're secular cultural values that even in Christian churches, you're going to date someone with secular values that went through the public school system. Parents maybe outsourced the education, outsourced the Sunday school lesson, didn't make their role primary-ish.
Yeah.
So they're gonna let other third parties do that. So you're gonna inherit the culture that young lady or young man has adopted, and it's gonna change all the time. The thing I like about courting is 3 words: slow it down. That's what courting does. It's not this hurry up rush thing to impress the other one. You have more time to see how the person you're courting handles extreme pressure. Just because they got a mouthful of teeth, great smile, check. That's not a check at all.
Right.
How do they handle pressure?
Yeah. Well, and I think that sword cuts both ways, because on one hand, and this is a contradiction buried in my own thinking, but on one hand, I'm a real fan of young marriages. I don't understand this thing where it's like, I'm going to get married at 35. It's like, okay, so you're going to build an entire world for yourself and curate it to be maximally advantageous to you, and then intentionally structure things so that you have to give all of that up for somebody else. Like, how do you sync 2 lives like that, and without bitterness or resentment or extreme, and it can be done, obviously. I mean, people get married at 35 because they don't find the right person that they want to marry until 35.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, as a cultural norm, as plan A, that seems like a bad idea. Like, it seems a lot better to me to say, okay, I was a child, now I'm an adult. What do adults do? We get married, we start families, we provide for people, we care for people, and just move right into it, right? And then also all these like side benefits. You can spend a much higher percentage of your life with your family if you get married when you're young. So that's all good. That's all good stuff. The danger there is you rush into something that is a bad idea. You marry somebody at 18, 19, they don't even know who they are yet until they're 25, 26, right? And so you increase your variables for the future. But it seems to me like the stabilizing force on that is intact families, because if you got multiple generations on both sides of people that care about you and wise input, men that can sniff out the men, women that can sniff out the women, you can really put a bracket around some of those variables, right? So all things being equal, I would say I'm in favor of young marriage as opposed to its opposite. But but slowing it down though, have you seen this person be offended? Have you seen this person have a chance to compromise their integrity and pass it up?
And family and friends are around, not to be nosy and run your lives as a courting couple, but just to be there for stability.
And see how he treats his mom. That was a big thing that Mom told me. She said, however you treat your mom and your sister, that's how you're going to treat your wife someday.
Yeah. And then our culture, I have to credit George W. Bush for this. Everyone should have a college education. Wrong.
Yeah.
So
boy, that didn't age well, did it?
No. No skin off his nose, though. But, people are coming out now, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. They can't afford it, and they can't afford to, with their degree, they can't get a job that they went to school for, at least right off the bat right now. They can't afford the house, as humble as it was. They can't even afford the house they were raised in. So that's another reason people are waiting to get married. A lot of it's self-induced. I want to go out and live life too.
Yeah.
There's kind of the hedonistic thing.
There is. And then there's just false assumptions. Like I hear a lot of people say, I'm going to wait till I'm done with college to get married. And I just do not understand that. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Because it's like college is going to be hard. So why not do it with somebody?
Well, yeah, and it's a benefit for the guy, especially like with seminary. The wives do the homework at night,
Honey, can you proofread my paper?
Yeah, right.
This paper's only 1 page. Yeah, it's a table of contents. Just fill in the gaps for me.
And that's what they did together. My aunt and uncle. My aunt worked and supported her and my uncle while he was going through medical school.
Yeah.
And they have more to share together.
Yeah, you can amplify each other, right? Plus, I mean, if nothing else, you're going to study, and then you're going to go and drive and see the person that you're courting or dating or whatever, right? Just save the drive time. Just get married. I remember because we got married in college, and it was like, well, all this time that I was spending driving to see Emily, now she's just right here. We can live life and kind of get down to it. So anyway.
Yeah, rather than, and you know this person. Yeah, I'm going to fly over and visit my girlfriend. And where she live? Ukraine. Right. Oh, good, good. Yeah. What about that big ring you gave her? Oh, she lost it. I'm so sorry.
Run, man, run.
Yeah.
Choose life.
Yeah. Or it could be if you're living in Seattle, you have a loved one in Portland or a girlfriend, someone you're chasing now. Chasing in a positive way, dating, that kind of helps to eliminate that, I think.
Yep. Yeah. And the opportunities for moral failure, the world doesn't care about these, in the modern times, the world hasn't cared about the moral failure, but to preserve yourself in that time, that really is a preservation of your worldview, right? And all the ethics that you were raised with or have honed yourself, the stuff that you value, you got a lot of opportunity to compromise that, pre-marriage. And if there's a courtship structure with a purpose, and especially with intact families on both sides. And, so take your time, but don't loaf about it. Get after life and make some things happen if they need to happen, right? That it protects your conscience in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
All right. So then as far as transferring worldview from one generation to the next, I guess my big question is, you're a grandparent now. So I'm guessing that you probably have some disagreements with how we approach things as parents or as, married people or whatever. And you haven't told us that, you haven't been critical of anything that we've done. You've given some really good advice. Actually, there was one time recently I said, yeah, this thing happened. And I think I'm just going to handle it. I don't think Emily needs to be burdened by it. And you and Mom were like, tell your wife. You basically said, what are you, stupid? Come on. Anyway, so that was a corrective measure.
Well, those were for the right intentions, in that you didn't want to add what you thought was unburdened stress.
Yeah. Yeah, but you were like, you got married, let her do her job, help her out. So I mean, there's that stuff, but like if you walk in and you see us parenting in a way that you very intentionally tried not to, like that's got to be tough, man. There's got to be a skill to being a grandparent. So when you're in the grandparent place or the in-laws place or something like that, when you're occupying that role, how do you know when to speak up and help out versus when to just like butt out, because there's a point where your contribution is over, but it's never really over. So I don't know. I mean, what if your kids do something you disagree with, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think that goes in the so what category with you two. I think our biggest concern has been, are you two having dates, time away? And, we can't say, it's Friday, you got to go have a date, because we're not there in Virginia or here, Eastern Washington, to line up babysitting or to be there ourselves. So we just want you guys to be able to take care of yourselves and, be able to enjoy each other through this.
That's true, because you have gotten on us a little bit in a very nice and smiley way about like, hey guys, go out to dinner, just do that. Yeah. Okay. So you basically pick very few things to focus on and then just encourage those things as you have opportunity.
Yeah. So much of it is while you're raising kids, you're going to have to see and experience this yourself. Our input is going to really not be anything in the big picture, though you would politely say, oh, okay, we will do that or we will try that. But it's your experience and where you're going to learn, and then build your own regimen, have your own battle rhythm.
Man, I can imagine there's probably times where you just got to, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I mean, times where somebody in your position would just have to leave the house and be like, I cannot watch them parent that way, or I need a break or something. It's got to be tough, because as a parent, you work on your approach so hard, and then people disagree with you, so you got to defend it. And then that's that digging in your heels and battle hardening and stuff like that. And then these kids that you raise, they just make other decisions, and it's like, but our decisions cost us something, like we had to learn this the hard way. You don't have to, so do what we did.
Well,
why not?
If it was watching a grandchild eating crap food, or raised by the television set, or watching inappropriate things that we deem inappropriate, Grease, the movie Grease, where they turned the girl into just a trash at the end, and the story of that whole process. You read the lyrics, Grease Lightning, that's pornography.
It really
and
is.
A lot of people don't know that, and they put their kids in front of that. Those are the kind of things, that and the diet, and are they getting enough mom time or family time? Those are the big concerns for us. And, you've always managed to, keep the kids included, good, healthy activities and discipline with homework or whatever.
So you're not backseat driving unless this car's really going off a cliff. Then you might speak up a little.
That would, and if they're not immediate family, that's when we'd just kind of see, we'll see you next time.
Got it.
Yeah, not punish the parents, but maybe talk with them if there's opportunity, especially if they ask.
Yeah. Okay. So when you were, let's say you were 27 when I was born, I think. So if you could go back to 30-year-old you, what questions should you have been asking that you didn't know to ask? And the reason I'm asking is because, there are people watching this that are like, yeah, I need some direction, but I don't know what I don't know. I think we had 7 or 8 babies born or about to be born in this church within this, few months span. Right. Wow. So there's a lot of young parents, most of them first-time parents. And it's just like, all right, teach me something, guys, but I don't know what questions to ask. So rewind to 30-year-old Merle. What would have given you the heading that you needed to be on right away? I
think so much of it is with the children, like when the baby is crying in the middle of the night, have the husband go get the baby and bring it to mom. Husband can go to sleep. That works for many, just that kind of thing. Having things, supplies staged, ready to go for mom to use or whoever with the baby. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Running support on the back end so that she can do a rapid deployment thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So then so young parents looking at you saying, all right, Merle, if I learn nothing else from you, I better get this, right? So, let me flip that around. If you're looking at a young parent saying, okay, if you learn nothing else from me, just don't miss this, what would that one thing be?
I think looking at the long game with your baby, with your child, the spiritual, just the basics with like what we talked about with problem solving. Don't leave them stuck in history. Apologize. That's one thing that I could really have done a lot more of better, was apologizing to my kids. Just those kind of things. Learning from mistakes, because it's all tuition when you think about it. It's nothing to feel guilty about, but just, I remember paying for that tuition, or,
What does Dave Ramsey call that? Paying your stupid tax?
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. And I like the other one, stupid activities bring stupid prizes.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's what it is. Yeah.
So, but that's really it. And just for parents to have a support network, and it might not be in their family. The family, the moms, the adult siblings may love them, but not have those biblical skills. Find somebody with those biblical skills, and that's where it's going to be in church. And, we talked about Jordan Peterson, Douglas Murray. These are unbelievers that understand biblical skills, basic biblical skills that apply for everyone, which we call common grace.
The rain falls on the just and the unjust alike.
Exactly. Yeah, find somebody with that kind of wisdom. When I started to be a believer as a kid, I remember I had neighbors wherever we moved to. There were neighbors that cared and would kind of reach out just to me and say, hey, why don't we talk about this, or we can help you here. And, and they tried to be friendly with my mom and stuff. And, but yeah, they were always there for me.
Yeah. The second tier and third tier support structures
people
in society.
That had the wisdom. Yeah. And the pastor friend of mine that I just upheld on Facebook, you could go move into his house if things got bad. And, there are always those kind of people that God had put in my life along the way. And there's been some dry spells in the wilderness where those people weren't present, but it wasn't forever.
Right.
So I had to learn some lessons on my own, But have those kind of people with the wisdom, whether they're believers or unbelievers.
Use them.
Yeah, use them.
Yeah. Well, we'll use you again soon. We'll do it again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hungry for Wisdom is a ministry of Grace and Truth Community in West Richland, Washington. 1 John 4:19. We love him because he first loved us. If you are enjoying Hungry for Wisdom, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share it. Leave us a 5-star rating if you think we've earned it.